Hey, welcome. This is Cam Corder again with another episode of the Quarantine Series. I'm here with two industry leaders in wellness and membership with Terry Woods from Core and Mike Leveque from MyZone. Introduce yourselves, tell more title and about your company. Mike, you go first.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. Thanks for inviting us to speak to the Y operators around the country. Mike Leveque started in the industry in 1987 on the operations side. Did operations and sales through college, then joined a small company called Star Trek Fitness in 1992 in Orange County, California, where we had one product. It was a treadmill, and was with that company for 20 years, did everything from inside sales, outside sales, finance, went over to Europe for 5 years to look after our European operations, and ended as president and chief operating officer when I left in 2011 to found a company called MyZone. What we felt like at the time that there was a gap in between the operator and the suppliers in the sense of building a more relevant relationship between the operator and the member. And so we look to build technology and a wearable technology solution to fill that gap. Currently, I'm the CEO of the Americas for MyZone, and also Group Chief Operating Officer, looking after product and programs and support.
Great. That original Star Trek treadmill was the best. In fact, I think one of my branches got rid of the original one last year. It lasted, however, they were great.
They were tanks.
They were great treadmills. That little dots and the folders on those were great treads. Terry, tell us about your role.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. And I also want to echo Mike. Thanks for having us on. These are great. It's a great series, and we're just proud to be part of it. So I mimic Mike, but I'm probably 5 years behind him. I also joined a small company called Star Trek. I'm going on this November will be my 25th year with the organization. So I'm pretty sure I get a watch in about a month. But started just as a junior sales representative out in the field. And we used to say we were detailing treadmills, which basically meant I was out there vacuuming, cleaning, and trying to get caught. Doing the customer service side of things, and had the opportunity to move my way up. I'm an engineer by trade, and there was a good fit for me 3 years into the job of becoming a product manager. And so really I cut my teeth in the industry, learning the sales side and the engineering side, and really trying to understand what the users and the members and the customers wanted, and played a strong role in the development of taking that one product company up to a full line. Star Trek was purchased out by an individual right around that 2011 timeframe, and we became Core Health and Fitness. And now I'm the vice president of our sales operations division, and Core Health and Fitness is the representative of 5 different brands in the industry. So it's Nautilus, it's Star Trek, it's Stairmaster, Schwinn, and then newly acquired Throwdown functional training products. So my job is to really oversee the entire business side of our global sales operations.
Great. Two great companies. I appreciate your time. Before we talk about the future of the industry, of the wellness industry, one of the focuses of the quarantine series has been to talk about leadership. So I'm just curious, and Mike, maybe start with you. What have you tried to focus on during this COVID time as you lead your teams?
Yeah, thanks for that, Cam. I think that there's this theory of working on the business and working in the business. And, when we get caught up in the day-to-day management of our operations, there's this draw to spend more time working in the business. All of these daily challenges come up, and you have to approve invoices, and you have to go to trade shows, and, all of these, sort of regular activities that you do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis come up. And you spend less time working on the business. And when I say on the business, I think of strategy, new products, new programs, new markets, for instance. And so, pre-pandemic, I felt like I was spending 20% of my time working on the business and 80% of my time working in the business. When the clubs shut down and all our customers were focused on, sort of self-preservation and working with landlords and taking care of employees, there wasn't much client development that we could do and much traveling that we could do. And so I felt like it flipped to 20% in the business and 80% on the business. And it was really refreshing. And, we've come up with new programs. We're going to be launching a new product here in the next few months. We're opening up offices in Germany and Singapore. And it really has given us the opportunity to refocus on strategy. And so the challenge that I've given my leadership team is to maintain more of a balance, a 50-50 balance of working on the business and working in the business. The second thing I would say is, and Terry and I learned this from a CEO that we both worked with in the past, is really focusing on the vital few. Now more than ever, it's really important to focus on what are the things that you have to do to be successful in the period, whether it's a month or quarter or year, and develop that list of vital few activities that you're going to do in that period. And once you develop the vital few, you fully resource them before you resource anything else. And, if you can fully resource those activities and you can get those done, then you focus on the other things. Sometimes it's really easy to focus on the useless many, but if you can maintain that focus with your leadership and management staff on the vital few, then you can make sure to have a higher percentage of being successful.
Great stuff. Terry, what about you and your sales force and your groups that are out there? What have you been trying to do to lead?
Yeah, Mike hits it with the on and in the business analogy, and we used a slightly different analogy, which was training your large muscle groups and training your smaller muscle groups. So many times you go into a facility and you're doing squats and bench press and lat pull downs and getting those big muscles in tune. And we use that analogy for what our leadership team was doing, which was being on the road, visiting customers, doing presentations, negotiating. Those are the large muscle groups of sales, but yet they weren't focusing on some of the smaller muscle groups that make them better, whether it be really understanding how the competitive landscape is, or working on their social media strategy, or any of these items that really will make their large muscles stronger in the long run. And I think what the pandemic has allowed us to do is exactly that. It gave us a little bit of time to fill our day. And so instead of, looking around trying to answer more emails, the real question was coming back to, okay, what's your strategy to make sure that you rebound out of this stronger? And so, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago about, making sure that you retool and retrench. And when you're looking at what do you need to be going into the future, make sure you're taking this time to go learn those new skill sets. You never know what it's going to be. But I mean, the joke being that we're all on Zoom right now, and many of us didn't even have a Zoom account in March. So making sure that you have the ability to conduct virtual trainings and to be able to get your point across in a different way was what we taught our team. We said, really focus on those smaller muscle groups.
Yeah, that's good. So let's transition to great segue there about refocusing and retrenching. So Terry, what's the future look like? I mean, I guess you can talk about clubs, but especially the YMCAs. And what's the next 24 months, and as it relates to wellness and membership for the YMCAs?
Yeah, so the joke around our office right now is about the crystal ball, right? If you have the crystal ball, then this is going to be easy. So I took it upon myself to buy our president the other day a crystal ball. And I sent it to him, and he didn't know it was coming. And I just said, hey, listen, here's the deal. You've got your crystal ball. No more excuses. Time to lead. And that's really what's going on is we have to get a lot of the people who've been in the industry for 20 to 25 years around the table and start talking about the next 12 and 24 months, because they are the crystal ball. And they're the ones that are going to be able to really guide this. Where does it go? Where do the YMCAs go? I'd like to turn that question around to you. That's what we're all trying to figure out. But what I see is this. The pendulum has swung, and people are buying consumer product now like crazy. And I do think one of the word that comes to mind for 2020 for me is the word hybrid. You're hearing it in education. You're hearing it in strategies for fitness and wellness. And there's this combination of, people thought it was going to rebound right back, and now it's looking more like a swoosh back into the market. And I think people are getting to the place where, they're going to continue their at-home, training, and they're looking for connections virtually, but they're going to gravitate back towards that facility. It's the Howard Schultz model of Starbucks, of everybody wanting that third place to go to, because what the YMCA's create that people don't understand nearly to the level I think they should is the word community. And I know Mike, the reason, when we were speaking earlier and I said, boy, you really need to get Mike on here, is because I really think his product helps facilitate that. I'm doing my commercial for Mike now. It facilitates that gap between that at-home model and the facility, and it creates that community. And I think, I think the recovery is going to happen faster. And I think the reason I think it's going to happen faster is because my opinion is most Americans have short-term memory. And there was something great that the facility gave, 6 months ago. And I don't see that going away. Does it change? Absolutely. There's going to be modifications, but I think that's what you're adapting to now. I think that's what you guys are going in and strategizing around. And so I believe people are going to be coming back. It just won't happen, in a month. It's going to happen a little bit over time.
Yeah.
It's about the people, it's about the products, it's about the programs, but you surround that. It really is the community you create is what I believe will draw people back into your market.
That's great. And for those listening, my advice, if you've never heard of the term third place, I would get on the Google machine and look it up. And there, a decade or more ago, there were a lot of great whys were trying to create the third place. And I think it still resonates with us today, is that can we build that community and create a third place for people? And that's our strength. That's it should be the sweet spot for YMCAs.
Well, I'd argue more so now than ever, because I'm in my home office. I think Mike's in his. Quite frankly, most of us are getting sick of our homes. So we want to go out to other places. And once it's safe to do so, I think you're going to see people aggressively looking for that.
Yeah. Mike, and how do you feel about the future, and especially maybe the next 24 months for YMCAs?
Yeah, Cam, I think that, in order to really focus on the future, I think we have to have a good understanding of where we are today. And, I was on a CEO call with the largest commercial operators in the country. And, something during this pandemic that I've never seen happen before is competing organizations have banded together and joined one call that's put on by a supplier, and suppliers can join the call, and they talk open and honestly about their current situation and what's happening, and they talk about what suppliers can offer solutions during this time, and what are people like industry analysts saying about our industry, and what data can we provide this group for them to make better decisions about how they're not only operating their business today but planning for the future. And this last week we had an analyst from Baird, a private equity firm out of Chicago, on the line, and they talked about how they track member usage. And what they do is they track cell phone location services, and they put geofences around the clubs, and they can tell what traffic is actually visiting the clubs. And from what their analysis shows is that pre-pandemic levels, we've only recovered to 50% of our pre-pandemic traffic this last month. But the hopeful sign is that searches on Google for opened clubs surpassed searches on Google for home equipment this last month. So that's a hopeful sign that people are looking to get back into the clubs. We've all heard about Peloton and home equipment and rollerblades and electric bikes and the competition to clubs. And what he was saying from sort of a third-party perspective is that, hey, electric bike sales up 400% and rollerblades up 400%. What's going to happen when the snow falls? I mean, that's going to give us the opportunity to retrench ourselves and our industry back into the mind share of our customer. But when they talked about planning for the future, these operators are really struggling with how to plan for staffing in the next 24 months and CapEx. And the consensus was that CapEx is going to be down quite a bit. And so the challenge of the operators was, from an operational perspective, how can you get the most bang for your buck for the CapEx that you're going to spend? What can you spend on highly visible technology or customer experience offering that's not super expensive? And so that was the challenge posed by the group to each other. What services and products can they offer for the highest value? And then as it relates to the whys, I think that we have to really focus on rebuilding our revenue, but revenue can only be rebuilt with customer confidence. Customer confidence in our operations that let's reestablish the benefit that we provide to our members. You have someone like Jillian Michaels out there who has a big megaphone that says she got COVID at the club. It's not really helping our industry when there's hundreds of reports that are coming out now that our industry is part of the solution, not part of the problem. The provinces of Quebec and Ontario, Canada, are shutting down again because of the spike in cases. And so they've shut down bars and restaurants and theaters. They've recognized that our industry, the clubs, will stay open through this next shutdown because we're part of the solution. And it was only 2 months ago that the clubs were shut down and they took the longest time to reopen. But now the public officials have recognized that we're part of the solution. So things like rebuilding our confidence with sanitation, our solution with mental health, our solution for rebuilding the community, like Terry said, I think it's really important for us to get out there and be the PR advocates for our clubs in our communities. And it can happen at the local level and also the national level.
Yeah, Terry, when we were together the other week, there was a Y in South Georgia that never closed. Their local municipality and the local hospital said that they needed to remain open for health reasons for their community. And so
that's right.
His membership actually grew during the pandemic, has grown. And I just thought that was fascinating that their community said, we got to have the Y stay open because it's a matter of health for our community.
He recorded himself.
Yeah, that's a message for us. Terry, we also talked about in this discussion that I think the term, or you correct me, that 30% of the way people are exercising has changed and probably won't revert back. Is that true? I mean, is that accurate?
I'm not sure of that stat. Mike might even know that stat better than I would. But what we understand is there's been a whole new entry into how you can exercise. We were forced to adapt, right? And that's what's happened. And I think what's happened is a few things. Number one, I think a lot of people who weren't going to facilities, this became a topic and everyone started listening to it and they started saying, hey, maybe I need to get on a program. I mean, I've seen even family members who have never once stepped into a facility were posting socially about their backyard workouts they were doing. And I thought, okay, well, this is kind of funny because this wasn't important to you then, but now it is. And so from that standpoint alone, I think people are going to be doing things differently. I think with, the fact that you couldn't go to restaurants or you couldn't go to other social gatherings, the only place, in the beginning that you were allowed to do was kind of get out, right? Go on hikes or go, at some point to the beach or whatever it might be. And so, Mike was talking about the bikes. It didn't hit me really until I was walking through a Target and you go down the bike aisle and there's no bikes to be found anywhere in the state of California. And I'm like, that was when I had my aha moment, like, wow, things are changing. So the question that comes up is like, okay, what's not going to come back? That's the real interesting thing. And when I look into, I think one of the big things that many people are watching is boutique fitness, right? And that's a big one because in boutique fitness in our world, you've got a smaller space and usually a higher rent district model based off of packing that room, right? And so that'll be an interesting one to see, how it rebounds and comes back. And then, all of your tight group spaces. I mean, those are the things that we're watching right now to see how people are adapting. I said it before, though. I think, a lot of people have a short-term memory, and they'll end up, once we get through the next phase here, you're going to see people kind of gravitate back towards what made them happy, what made them have a lot of fun.
I think facility design for the future YMCA is not going to look like it looks today. I mean, how they lay out rooms and space, and I think that's done. And so,
there's another data is a huge deal right now. What I said before was, as you're going through your facility design over the next 12 to 24 months, you can't afford to be wrong with what you choose. And there's a lot of companies out there that are tracking usage and what's going, what products are being used. And as you go in and place 60% of the equipment that you used to place 100%, you got to make sure that 60% mix is correct and accurate and what people want. And so, if there's any advice I'd give out to your group is make sure you truly know what people are using. And a lot of your sales experts will help you with that. They'll come in and there's tools out there. You don't have to rely on your eyes. You can actually utilize several different tools. There's a company we use called EcoFit that has a great, very easy calculator online that basically says, give us this data and we'll tell you the mix that you should probably put in based on your region's usage. So there's a lot of great tools out there that can help you with that facility design. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting one going forward.
Yeah. Mike, what about you? What are you hearing, especially in some of the calls you said you've been on, of people have found a new way to exercise? What percentage of those are, hey, this is what I'm doing and I'm probably not going to go back or change?
Yeah, Kim, as you can appreciate, we track that very closely within our four walls to understand exactly how people are exercising and where they're exercising. And, we sort of set a mark at pre-pandemic levels of January and February of this year. And we said, hey, how are users exercising? And so in April 1st, the month of April, we dropped to 70% of users on the MyZone system. And we have 2 million users in 7,000 clubs in 64 countries. So this is a global metric. But we dropped to 70% of our users in April. Our activity metric, which is MyZone effort points, dropped to 68%. So 70% of users doing 68% of their normal activity. And it was interesting, our MyZone effort points per user dropped to 89%. So that activity or efficiency metric dropped as well. But what we're seeing now is that our users have recovered back to 85%. Our activity metric is up to 88%. And our MEPS per user, people are exercising more now. Those exercisers that have stayed with their program are exercising more. That's up to 102%. So we're over the activity per member metric that we tracked in pre-pandemic level. How it relates to clubs, though, is before the pandemic, we had 65% of our exercisers were doing their activity in clubs and 35% out of the clubs. And so we talk about extending the reach of our physical plant outside the four walls of our club. Well, it was about two-thirds in the club and 1/3 out of the club. Today, it's 1/3 in the club and 2/3 out of the club. And so it's really important for operators to keep in mind that their members are still working out. They just may not be working out inside the club. So how can we connect with our members outside of the club? And, two bits of advice that I would give to the YMCAs is really focus on customer experience and understand that customer journey. How are your members consuming your product? And really understanding that and making sure that you're building the best customer experience. And Terry talked about that hybridization of fitness. And, I guess the best way I would describe hybridization of fitness is adding technology to offer, to increase or to benefit and extend your offering outside of the four walls of your club. And you can do that by technology that that supplies activity tracking and challenges and goal setting and rewards and community building and digital programming. It's not just about what you do inside the club anymore. And you ask, how are things going to change? We hear about these 4 billion apps that are on the App Store that relate to fitness. And what's happening is now the statistics are coming out that the attrition rate for apps is 90%. 90% of people that downloaded an app that didn't have a club associated with it or a product associated with it have already left their app during the pandemic. And so it's really important that hybridization, having a product or service or having a club associated with your technology, is going to dictate who the winners and losers are in the digital fitness space.
Yeah, I guess you think that relates to having the instructor or a Y staff person that's communicating with them saying, great job, or, but just encouraging about, hey, I saw you had a great workout, or try to do something else. That's important in somebody using the app or even the MyZone, product.
Yeah, Cam, and that's all towards that motivation aspect of our product and the community building. If you have someone that says, hey, Cam, congratulations, you worked out today. I saw you smashed it. That gives you that little dopamine rush and that little bit of accountability to say, hey, I have someone looking after me and I have someone truly interested in me reaching my goals, rather than just, the value proposition of a lot of clubs that just throw open the doors, charge $45 for a membership, and your member may come in 2 times a week. They may not come in 2 times a week. Oftentimes, there's no chance of getting your name said even at the front desk. And so you're just a number, and one of the early calls in the pandemic, one of the CEOs was a member of another club, kind of a national club chain. And he said he got an email from his club that said, "Dear member 35609. And so, look, their mail merge didn't even get his name on that email. And how do you think that made him feel? So community aspect and that motivation and staying in contact with your member is critical.
That's good. And Terry, as we kind of close, and this is maybe just a business, hearing Mike talk, knowing that I'm going to buy less equipment in the next year, 18 months, 24 months, what's your response to that? I mean, how are you going to respond? Your people out on the street, my rep that's talking to my wives, he knows I'm not going to give him a big purchase this year, along with otherwise. How are y'all responding to that?
Yeah, what we're trying to make sure that we're educating everyone on is again, it's about equipment choice, and at core, our focus is on innovation. We understand that we've got 3 different models that we're working for 2021 through 2022, and there's a good, a bad, a good, and a great, right? But the fact is there are so many unique products that are out there right now. And as you go to make your purchases in the next years, I'll challenge the group. Are you buying the right things? Are you doing what you just did in the past? Or are you truly looking at where the trends are and how you're going to create this model? And are you putting the right product in the facility? And I think, for those customers that are really thinking, okay, I got to get this right and I have to be above the trend, I think we're in a really good spot. We like to present our products, which we call a wedge strategy, something that we have that no one else has, so that we can get new and unique products into different facilities, whether it be a single piece, like we've got a sound dampening platform that allows, the growing trend of Olympic lifting has created a whole nother problem, which is noise pollution, right? And so, having a unique platform that allows you to drop the weights, decrease the vibration, decrease the sound, may be the one thing that we can sell to you next year that instead of the 10 treadmills, because of the budgets being reduced. Things like functional training, that's obviously one of the fastest growing trends is our rigs and the soft goods that go with those rigs. And so, working with companies like Mike and creating that little bit of package where we can come in and, okay, so you're not going to spend nearly as much as you did last year, but can we make a massive impact with the money you do spend? That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to say, you can come in and completely change a room for a lot less money than you think you used to in years past. So, but it does come back down to those big muscle groups. Like I said, it's getting back on the street, asking how we can help, being there. It just might be that we're helping in different ways now. And that's the one thing that I've tried to encourage my managers is to leave every call with, what else can I do to help? Because, to your point, it could be something as simple as, hey, if you've got time this weekend and can help me paint these walls, I'd love it. And it just, that's the kind of thing that I think will start bringing us together. And so if you do need any paint, though, I do know that Mike is free next weekend. So
I think that's critical. I mean, and we're blessed in the Carolinas that all the equipment companies, the top 4 or 5, their reps have been pretty stable and they're very responsive. And I'm a small Y, so I'm not a big purchaser. And I have the mantra that I buy a little bit from everybody. So I'm not a big dollar amount on any sales reps, but they've all been responsive. But one that really has a lot of trust for me, we were walking through a Y one day and we talked about a piece of equipment and he went, no, that company's better than ours. You ought to buy that one, not ours. They're better than their product and that line is better than ours. And it's created a lot of trust that he wasn't just selling me, that he was, hey, here's what your Y needs to get. You should get that. And I think as you talk about equipment selection, I think that is a great way to approach it, to going, you don't need this. I can sell you this, but you don't need this,
Yeah.
Upgrading me in the car, the car salesman going, hey, buy this, man. My dad at 88 years old does not need a Corvette. I mean, so putting him in that's not going to help him. I think that'd be a great approach for us. Any just closing comments or thoughts for our Y movement?
Yeah, Cam, if I could take that question, I think the most important thing right now is to really understand the mission and live the mission and, understand how your mission, influences the broader constituency. A lot of clubs focus on the club member, and I feel like the Ys have that community aspect that the clubs don't have. And, we can talk about, how can we really reinforce that benefit that we're giving to the broader community. We started a Workout to Help Out campaign. And basically what it is it's a whole marketing PR campaign that allows the club to amplify that message in their local community and not have to do everything from graphics and images. And, we give them press releases. And so that Workout to Help Out message helps them create a whole PR campaign in their local community that reinforces the benefit that they provide to the community. And second thing I would say is, don't forget the customer journey. It's really important right now, maybe more than ever, to understand your customer journey and, what is their journey in aquatics? What is their journey in basketball league? What is their journey just showing up at that front desk and walking back to that workout room? And then, to Terry's point, what products and services are they using? And what is the most visible way that you could increase and deploy your CapEx this next year to get the biggest bang for your buck? And those are going to be the critical aspects for the next 12 and 24 months.
Yeah, to echo on Mike, the reason that the customer journey is so important, I think, is because if you take it from beginning to end and you really map it out and you say, where can we improve? The cost is minimal. It's minimal to train people to act differently with your members, and you can get the biggest return on some simple things. And I agree wholeheartedly with that. And I go back to what makes the YMCA different than most every other facility I've been into is the word community. And especially now, I mean, in light of whether it's what's going on in a political situation or whatever it is, I really think that we're thirsting for that community. We want to belong, and anybody can open up 4 walls and put hard goods in it and earn a profit, but not many people can create 4 walls and create a home. And so I think that's where you need to continue to focus. It's what separates you, in my opinion.
Great. Well, I do appreciate both of your time. Two great companies. If you're listening, I hope, or if you got a chance to watch this, I hope you'll share it with your teams, especially membership and wellness teams. Share it with your volunteers as you look to the future of our YMCAs. And I hope that, great advice that we stick to our mission and that we build community and ultimately, whether they're at the Y or not, we need a healthier world and healthier, state, county, country. And that's what we should be focused on. Let's get people out there. But two great companies. Thank you guys for spending time with us.
Hey, thank you, Cam. That was great.
Thanks, Cam.